Hello everyone, Ron here from L.T.L Tutoring Central, and I am here with another entry for the Reading Comprehension and Discussion series. There'll be a link to the playlist for that down below. There's several playlists if you want to check them out. But this one is for Reading Comprehension and Discussion. We're going to be looking at an article that I haven't read myself yet, so we'll be sort of reading it together, or whenever you're watching this, you'll see that I'm reading it for the very first time at least. Hopefully I won't cough too much. I've been coughing an awful lot, so I'll try not to because I don't usually edit. I usually just go straight through. So all the mistakes that I make, you will see me make, most likely anyway, unless it's really terrible, and then I'll have to start all over again. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps channels a lot. L.T.L Tutoring Central. I'm a private tutor. This is my 30th year of tutoring students locally at the big table behind me here, but online to students from all around the world. So if you're interested in my private tutoring service, let me know and I can send you more information, or I can set up a free information meeting for you. Also, if you're planning to take one of my Udemy courses, don't forget to email me so that I can send you a coupon for a huge savings on the listed price. Udemy sometimes have sales, but if they don't have a sale on, or even if they do, you can send me an email and I'll send you a coupon for their lowest price. It's usually around $9.99 to $13.99, I think, but things change. So depending on when you watch this. All right, I'm going to share my screen now so we can have a look at this article. And I'm going to make this a little bit larger, but before I do that, I wanted to read on the side here because I'm not familiar with James Clear. I haven't heard of him before. The title of the article is "For a More Creative Brain, Follow These 5 Steps." So I thought the title was very interesting. That's why I chose to have a look at this one. But on the side, it says about the author. James Clear writes about habits, decision-making, and continuous improvement. He is the author of the #1 New York Times bestseller, Atomic Habits. I'm not familiar with that book. The book has sold over 25 million copies worldwide and has been translated into more than 60 languages. So that sounds very promising. Let me just make the screen a bit bigger so that it'll be easier for you to see. I was afraid that this side piece would disappear, but I guess it's still there. Okay, for a more creative brain, follow these 5 steps. James Clear. Oh, and I will put a link to this article. I'm just reading it straight off of where I found it. So I'll just put a link down there and you can come here and check it. And then, underneath the little bit of information about James Clear says, click here to learn more. You can do that and check out everything else here as well. So nearly all great ideas follow a similar creative process, and this article explains how this process works. Understanding this is important because creative thinking is one of the most useful skills you can possess. That I will agree. I should have mentioned, I will be commenting as we go through. That I do agree on. I think that's one of the things that I do all the times with my students, whether they're trying to learn fractions, whether they're trying to learn reading comprehension, whether they're trying to become better writers. It's very important to be a creative thinker and to be able to look at things from various angles. Nearly every problem you face in work and in life can benefit from innovative solutions, lateral thinking, and creative ideas. Anyone can learn to be creative by using these 5 steps. That's not to say being creative is easy. Uncovering your creative genius requires courage and tons of practice. However, this 5-step approach should help demystify the creative process and illuminate the path to more innovative thinking. To explain how this process works, let me tell you a short story. Oh, okay, well, we like stories, don't we? All right, here we go. A problem in need of a creative solution. In the 1870s, newspapers and printers faced a very specific and very costly problem. Photography was a new and exciting medium at the time. Readers wanted to see more pictures, but nobody could figure out how to print images quickly and cheaply. For example, if a newspaper wanted to print an image in the 1870s, they had to commission an engraver to etch a copy of the photograph onto a steel plate by hand. These plates were used to press the image onto the page, but they often broke after just a few uses. This process of photo engraving, you can imagine, was remarkably time-consuming and expensive. The man who invented a solution to this problem was named Frederick Eugene Ives. He went on to become a trailblazer in the field of photography and held over 70 patents by the end of his career. His story of creativity and innovation, which I will share now, is a useful case study for understanding the 5 key steps of the creative process. Oops. A flash of insight. Ives got his start as a printer's apprentice in Ithaca, New York. After 2 years of learning the ins and outs of the printing process, he began managing the photographic laboratory at nearby Cornell University. He spent the rest of the decade experimenting with new photography techniques and learning about cameras, printers, and optics. In 1881, Ives had a flash of insight regarding a better printing technique. While operating my photostereotype process in Ithaca, I studied the problem of halftone process, Ives said. I went to bed one night in a state of brain fog over the problem, and the instant I woke in the morning, saw before me, apparently projected on the ceiling, the completely worked out process and equipment in operation. Ives quickly translated his vision into reality and patented his printing approach in 1881. He spent the remainder of the decade improving upon it. By 1885, he had developed a simplified process that delivered even better results. The Ives process, as it came to be known, reduced the cost of printing images by 15 times and remained the standard printing technique for the next 80 years. Wow. All right, now let's discuss what lessons we can learn from Ives about the creative process. Okay, before we do that, I just have a little comment to make. Sometimes this has happened to me. It has probably happened to many of my viewers. And if it hasn't yet, it might one day. So I often say, if you really have worked on a problem, whatever that kind of problem is, it could be just a social problem, not necessarily an academic problem. It could be a personal problem, but it could be an academic problem as well. It could be a math problem, it could be anything. Coming up with an idea for an essay, whatever. Sometimes going to bed, having a sleep, letting your brain do its little thing while it regenerates and recovers, etc., and getting a good night's sleep. You wake up in the morning and go, I know. I've done this for many things, but sometimes it's names. I can't think of the name of that actor, or I can't remember the name of that person I met, 30, 35 years ago. And I think, and I think, and I think, and I'm popping here, and I can't think of it. And yet in the morning I wake up and it's right there. Boom, there it is. So it's funny how that happens. All right. So here's an example of a picture. The printing process developed by Frederick Eugene Ives used a method called halftone printing to break a photograph down into a series of tiny dots. The image looks like a collection of dots up close, but when viewed from a normal distance, the dots blend together to create a picture with varying shades of gray. So you can see the trolley cars there. The 5 stages of the creative process. In 1940, an advertising executive named James Webb Young published a short guide titled A Technique for Producing Ideas. In this guide, he made a simple but profound statement about generating creative ideas. According to Young, innovative ideas happen when you develop new combinations of old elements. In other words, creative thinking is not about generating something new from a blank slate, but rather about taking what is already present and combining those bits and pieces in a way that has not been done previously. Yes, that makes sense to me too. Nothing new under the sun, at the core at least. Most important, the ability to generate new combinations hinges upon your ability to see the relationships between concepts. If you can form a new link between 2 old ideas, you have done something creative. Young believed this process of creative connection always occurred in 5 steps. Okay, so here we go. Number 1, gather new material. At first, you learn. During this stage, you focus on 1, learning specific material directly related to your task, and 2, learning general material by becoming fascinated with a wide range of concepts. 2, thoroughly work over the materials in your mind. During this stage, you examine what you have learned by looking at the facts from different angles and experimenting with fitting various ideas together. 3, step away from the problem. Next, you put the problem completely out of your mind and go do something else that excites you and energizes you. Number 4, let your idea return to you at some point, but only after you have stopped thinking about it. Your idea will come back to you with a flash of insight and renewed energy. And number 5, shape and develop your idea based on feedback. For any idea to succeed, you must release it out into the world, submit it to criticism, and adapt it as needed. I'm just going to scroll down to see, okay, there's not a lot, so that he might not say what I'm going to say here. I don't want to say it and then see he says it later. There's not a lot more coming. So I'll say a couple of things about this. I think it's very good overall. Gather new material. So you're learning something new. You have to be uh, at least somewhat knowledgeable of the topic that you're working with. It says learning general material. Well, I think a lot of people might, when they read this, say, well, how can I learn? Like, what do I know to look at? I think more than learning general material is just, always be cognizant, always be paying attention, be interested in as many topics as you can in your life at whatever stage you're at. Try to be curious and interested. And sometimes people automatically reject certain things. They're not that interested in science, or they can't stand politics, or they're not, history is boring, or whatever but don't let that stop you. Yeah, every subject, every topic can be interesting if you find interesting texts. And nowadays, of course, we have lots of video and podcasts and other things. Just have to be careful you're getting legitimate information, but many, many ways that you can be interested. And then as you're learning something new, try to network. I've talked about this many times in videos and on blogs, and of course with my students. You try to network that knowledge, right? So something that you are learning in English today, if you're in an English classroom, for example, but even if you're just doing it for yourself, may connect to a historical fact that you're aware of, or vice versa. Science may enter into it as well. If you're learning something in history, you may remember, oh, yes, I learned something about this in science class. And you may even recognize characters going between different subjects. And so that's how you can do that. You can't learn everything all at once, but I think the idea of just networking your knowledge as you learn something new. And then working the materials over in your mind. Yes, that's very important. Looking at it from different angles. I kind of mentioned that before because I do that with my students all the time. I like to use humor, and often they think I'm just joking around. And sometimes I am just joking around, but most of the time there's a reason for it. And it's to try to get them to break out of this sort of linear, boxed in thought process and think more creatively, get outside of that a little bit. Step away from the problem. Yeah, if you can, getting away from it, kind of letting your mind work it over without you consciously thinking of it. Oh, popping again. And doing other things. And it's just kind of spinning around up there. It's kind of like going to bed at night and waking up with that solution that he talked about earlier. Let your idea return to you. Sometimes it comes back and it gets you all excited and you want to dive back into it. He says as a flash of insight and renewed energy. Sometimes that happens. It doesn't always happen, but sometimes it does happen. Shape and develop your idea based on feedback. That's good too. You need to know whether you're on the right track at all, because sometimes we get very excited about something and find out that, well, A, it's already been done to death, or B, it isn't going to work, and here's why. Now, there's always downers, so you don't have to worry about that, but listen to everyone, even the downers, because they might have a point and you want to at least look at it. You don't give up on an idea right away, but if it really is completely untenable, you don't want to keep working on it for months or years either. You want to be aware if there's something that really doesn't work, but you can adapt it as needed, as he says. Sometimes you have to change it completely. Sometimes it's just an adaptation. But in general, yeah, I think this is very, very good. The other thing is, if it doesn't come back to you in a flash of insight or renewed energy, you may just need to rework it. You may need to start back at number one, or sort of get yourself back into it a little bit, because it doesn't always just pop back in. Especially if you feel that you're not the most creative person at this point in time. Learning to be creative, sometimes it does take some work, which you did mention earlier as well. The idea in practice. The creative process used by Frederick Eugene Ives offers a perfect example of these 5 steps in action. First, Ives gathered new material. He spent 2 years working as a printer's apprentice and then 4 years running the photographic laboratory at Cornell University. These experiences gave him a lot of material to draw upon and make associations between photography and printing. So that's what I was saying before. It's just sort of take your life experience. Second, Ives began to mentally work over everything he learned. By 1878, Ives was spending nearly all of his time experimenting with new techniques. He was constantly tinkering and experimenting with different ways of putting ideas together. So yeah, that's a good point. Third, Ives stepped away from the problem. In this case, he went to sleep for a few hours before his flash of insight. Letting creative challenges sit for longer periods of time can work as well. Regardless of how long you step away, you need to do something that interests you and takes your mind off the problem. Fourth, his idea returned to him. Ives awoke with the solution to his problem laid out before him. On a personal note, I often find creative ideas hit me just as I am lying down for sleep. Once I give my brain permission to stop working for the day, the solution appears easily. Yes, I think with both third and fourth here, that's, I think, what is happening. Partly what is happening is that during the day or whenever you're really focused on something, you can become almost too focused and you're not allowing for the creativity to come in. You're not allowing for the solutions to pop in. You're kind of stopping it. You've got these barriers up, but when you let go, either he says just before he goes to sleep, usually for me it happens, when I wake up, but when you're asleep and then you wake up refreshed, hopefully, and and you haven't sort of started zeroing in too much yet, then sometimes these solutions can float into your mind, or possible solutions. Sometimes they're not right, but yeah, they can help guide you. Finally, Ives continued to revise his idea for years. In fact, he improved so many aspects of the process, he filed a second patent. This is a critical point and is often overlooked. It can be easy to fall in love with the initial version of your idea, but great ideas always evolve. The creative process, in short, an idea is a feat of association, and the height of it is a good metaphor. Robert Frost, very good quotation there. The creative process is the act of making new connections between old ideas. Thus, we can say creative thinking rather, is the task of recognizing relationships between concepts. One way to approach creative challenges is by following the 5-step process of 1, gathering material, 2, intensely working over the material in your mind, 3, stepping away from the problem, 4, allowing the idea to come back to you naturally, and 5, testing your idea in the real world and adjusting it based on feedback. Being creative isn't about being the first or only person to think of an idea. More often, creativity is about connecting ideas. Yes, that's true. And that's why it's very difficult, usually in history books and things and in the past. Often one person, maybe two, but often one person is credited for inventing something. And there's many, many, many times a lot of other people who were involved in that creation or invention, and sometimes they invented it before, actually, in another country or something. So it's okay, it's fine. We can have more than one person working on one idea and coming up with similar solutions sometimes. Okay, there's more information down here. As I say, I will that's the end of the article though, so I'll put a link so you can look at that. Yes, I find this with writing my stories as well. So if you're a creative writer, but lots of jobs or things that people do, and you're trying to come up with the next scene, or you're trying to come up with, what would this character think or do or say or whatever, and you just can't quite get there because you're focusing too much right now. Get away from it. Go for a walk. I often go for walks, and sometimes I can work on it, but sometimes I'm not even working on it. I'm just walking, looking at the squirrels, the birds, whatever, and relaxing and letting myself enjoy the day. And then when I come back to it, usually before I even get back home, I'm walking back, and then all of a sudden I'll think, oh, maybe I should think about that. And then, oh, boom, 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 I got all these thoughts. Then I have to hurry to get home. Actually, now I usually carry a little pad with a pencil so that I can jot it down so I don't forget. Or other than that, I rush back home so I can at least jot them down and then incorporate them later on. All right, I'm going to stop share so I'm on a bigger screen here. Very interesting article, I thought. I hope you did too. You can let me know your thoughts on it down below. Have you had those experiences? Are you going to try some of those things? It's a process, and he laid it out very, very well, I think. Very good article, very, very interesting. And I think for the most, yeah, I don't see anything really wrong with it, except that I don't want anybody to get caught up in you have to do this step by step, or you have to think about this. And I don't think he would want you to do that either. The whole idea is to be creative and to come at things from different angles and different approaches. So if you have a different angle or different approach that works, that's great. That's fantastic. I think in general, this is probably what is happening, even if you don't recognize it. Some people just do it naturally and they say, oh, I don't need no process, but actually they are following it. They just don't know that they are. This is happening for them naturally. All right, that's it for me at this point in time. It's Ron from L.T.L Tutoring Central. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It helps channels a lot. Thank you to those of you who have subscribed. Also, you can leave your comments, as I say, down below, and there's links down below as well to the other reading, comprehension, and discussion videos that I've done, and also to my books, etc. So you want to check those out. Don't forget to send for a coupon for if you're planning on taking any of my Udemy courses, and if you want information or a free information meeting to learn more about my private tutoring service. I'm primarily teaching reading, comprehension, writing skills. I do some basic math skills as well. All right. Just shoot me an email. I forgot to say that part. I'm looking for the record part to stop the record. And that's it until next time. Keep learning, keep having fun. Bye-bye for now.